Have you ever smiled while your heart felt like it was breaking into 1,000 silent pieces? Have you ever sat in a room full of people and still felt completely alone? In today's world, filled with noise, speed, and endless distractions, there's a quiet kind of suffering that hides behind so many eyes. It's not always loud. It doesn't always cry for help. Sometimes it just sits in silence, hoping someone will understand. This is depression, not a weakness, not a failure, but a tender wound that asks to be seen with compassion, not judgment. And while modern life offers pills, diagnoses, and temporary escapes, there is an ancient path that invites us to turn inward, to breathe, to listen, and to heal. The Buddha never spoke in clinical terms, but he understood suffering more deeply than any textbook ever could. He saw through the masks we wear. He saw the restlessness in our minds, the ache in our hearts, and he offered not a cure, but a way to gently walk through the darkness, without fear, without shame. In this video, we won't try to fix you. We won't give you hollow motivation. Instead, we'll sit with you, right where you are. And together, we'll explore what the Buddha saw when he looked into the face of sorrow and found peace. So if your soul feels tired, if your smile has grown heavy, stay, you are not alone. And this path, this gentle ancient path, may just be the beginning of coming home to yourself. Depression, a word that carries so much weight. To many, it feels like falling into a bottomless pit, a place where colors fade, where time slows down, and where even the simplest tasks feel impossibly heavy. But what does Buddhism say about this experience? Does the Buddha talk about depression the way modern psychology does? Not exactly. Yet within his teachings, we find something far deeper, a gentle mirror held up to the human mind. Let us pause here and breathe together, not to analyze, not to judge, but to understand. In Buddhism, suffering is not an enemy. It's a truth, a reality woven into the very fabric of life. The Buddha called it dukkha. Dukkha is not just physical pain or emotional sadness. It's the underlying unease that exists in all things. The fear of loss, the anxiety of change, the dissatisfaction of never enough. Even when everything seems perfect, we still feel something missing, don't we? That is dukkha. Depression, in many ways, is a concentrated form of this dukkha. It is the mind reacting to impermanence, to loss, to unmet expectations, to isolation. It is the weight of craving and aversion, pressing inward, until we forget how to breathe. But the Buddha never condemned this suffering. He never said, "You are broken." He simply said, "This is suffering, and it can be understood." In fact, the Buddha's very first teaching, the Four Noble Truths, begins not with escape, but with acceptance. There is suffering. There is a cause to suffering. There is an end to suffering. And there is a path that leads to that end. This path doesn't ignore depression. It doesn't push it away or cover it up. Instead, it invites us to see it clearly, to sit with it like a wise friend, and to gently ask, "What are you here to teach me?" Let's go deeper. Buddhism teaches that the roots of suffering often come from three poisons: greed, or craving for what we don't have; hatred, or rejection of what we don't like; delusion, or confusion about who we truly are. When we are depressed, these three may all be present, sometimes without us even noticing. We may crave happiness and feel crushed that it doesn't come. We may reject ourselves, saying things like, "I'm not good enough," or "I'm a burden." We may forget our true nature and believe the lie that we are alone or unworthy of love. But Buddhism reminds us, you are not your thoughts, you are not your feelings, and you are certainly not your depression. Just as clouds come and go across the sky, so do emotions, moods, and even hopelessness. They arise. They stay for a time. and they pass. This is called anicca, impermanence. The Buddha taught, all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. It doesn't mean we pretend we're okay. It means we remember. This pain is not permanent. This storm will not last forever. And beneath it all, there is a stillness in you, a space untouched by depression, a place the Buddha called your true nature, luminous, aware, unbroken. Imagine this, a clear lake. On the surface, the water is muddy, stirred by winds and storms. But deep below, there is calm. That calm is always there, even when we cannot see it. Buddhism invites us to look beyond the surface, to stop identifying with the mud, and to remember the depth that still shines beneath it all. But how do we do that? Not by force, not by running away, but by turning inward with curiosity, with compassion, and with courage. This is the beginning of the path, not to fix depression, but to understand it, to honor it, to walk beside it rather than trying to destroy it. And this understanding, it softens us. It opens a small space between the pain and our identity. Where once we said, "I am depressed," we begin to whisper, "There is depression here, but I am not it." And that simple shift, that tender recognition, is the start of liberation. Why do we suffer? Not just physically, but deeply, quietly, inwardly. Why do we feel empty even when our lives seem full? The Buddha offered an answer, not a simple one, but a deeply honest one. He said suffering doesn't appear out of nowhere. It has causes, it has roots. And when we understand those roots, we no longer feel like helpless victims of life. We begin to see clearly. Let's begin with one of the most subtle yet powerful roots: attachment. In Pali, it's called upadana. We cling. We hold tightly to people, to ideas, to youth, to success, to the way things used to be. And when life shifts, when things change, as they always do, we feel pain, loss, grief. Imagine holding a flower in your hand. If you hold it gently, you feel its softness. But if you clutch it, afraid to let it go, its petals crumble, and the stem breaks. In the same way, we cling to what we love, but it's the clinging, not the loving, that causes suffering. Another root of mental suffering is aversion. We resist what we don't like. We push away pain, illness, loneliness, aging, even our own emotions. But the more we push away sadness, the more it grows in the shadows. The Buddha taught, what we resist persists. When we say, "I shouldn't feel this way," "This emotion is bad," or "I have to fix this now," we add another layer of suffering on top of what's already there. The third root? Delusion, a kind of spiritual blindness, forgetting who we are, mistaking our thoughts for truth, believing that we are separate, cut off, alone. This delusion feeds depression in subtle ways. We compare our lives to others. We measure ourselves by impossible standards. We forget that just being alive is already enough. We become lost in stories. I'm a failure. I'm worthless. I'll never be happy again. But these are just thoughts. They arise, and they pass. They are not who you are. The Buddha often spoke of anatta, the truth of no fixed self. You are not a fixed label, not a permanent identity. You are a flowing, breathing, ever-changing being. Depression may visit, but it does not define you. It is not your name. Now let's talk about something very human. The illusion of control. We try so hard to manage life, to make sure things go our way, to protect ourselves from pain. But life is not ours to control. People leave, bodies change, dreams shift, and when reality doesn't match our expectations, we suffer. The Buddha taught that expectation is a trap. We imagine how things should be, and when they aren't, we fall into despair. But what if we stopped saying, "This shouldn't be happening," and instead whispered, "This is happening, and I will meet it with awareness"? That one shift, from resistance to presence, changes everything. And finally, underneath all these causes of suffering is a deep, unspoken belief many carry. I am not enough. This belief is not true. It never was. The Buddha never looked at a person and saw someone broken. He saw beings who had forgotten their own light. You too have that light, even if right now it feels far away. So if you are suffering, you are not weak. You are human. And the Buddha's wisdom? It's not here to shame you. It's here to hold you. To say, yes, this is suffering, but you are not alone in it, and you don't have to stay trapped in it forever. The causes of mental suffering can be understood, and once they are seen clearly, they begin to lose their power. Because when we bring the light of awareness to the darkest corners of the mind, healing begins. Gently, quietly, naturally. This is the beginning of transformation. So far, we've explored the nature of suffering and the deep roots that nourish depression in silence. But what now? Is there a path forward? Yes, the Buddha did not only speak of pain, he walked the road beyond it. And he left footprints for us to follow. Let's begin. 1. Mindfulness. The art of returning to now. When the mind is depressed, it often lives in two places: the past, with its wounds and regrets, or the future, with its fears and uncertainties. But peace only lives here, in this breath, in this moment. Mindfulness is the simple act of being present. It sounds small, but it is profoundly powerful. Try this with me. Take a slow breath in, hold it gently, and exhale, like letting go of a heavy stone. That breath was your anchor, your home, your moment of freedom from the storm. The Buddha said, "Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." When we bring our attention to just one breath, we stop running, we stop fighting, and we begin to see. You don't need to sit on a cushion for hours. Even a few moments, sitting, breathing, watching, can soften the edges of sadness. 2. Loving kindness. Turning compassion inward. Many who suffer from depression speak to themselves in harsh, punishing voices. I should be stronger. I'm a burden. I'm not worth anything. But the Buddha taught that compassion begins not with others, but with yourself. The practice is called metta, loving kindness. Close your eyes, place your hand over your heart, and silently repeat, "May I be safe. May I be peaceful. May I be free from suffering." You may feel resistance. You may even want to cry. That's okay. That means something tender is waking up in you. Self-compassion is not self-pity. It is the courage to look at your pain with gentleness instead of judgment. As Thich Nhat Hanh said, compassion is a verb. It is not a feeling. It is an action we choose, over and over again. And that action begins with you. 3. Letting go. Releasing what you cannot hold. So much of depression comes from grasping, clinging to what once was or what we believe should be. But life does not move backwards. It flows like a river. And when we try to dam the river, we suffer. The Buddha taught vairagya, the practice of non-attachment, not coldness, not giving up, but letting things be. Try this. When a sad thought arises, don't push it away. Don't hold on to it. Just say, "This too is a passing cloud," and return to your breath. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means making space, so that new life, new peace, can enter. 4. Right view. Seeing depression with new eyes. Sometimes, the most healing thing is to change the way we look at what we feel. In Buddhism, this is called right view, the first step on the Noble Eightfold Path? What if depression is not a punishment, but a messenger? What if it's the soul's quiet cry, asking you to slow down, to listen, to come home? When we shift our view, even suffering becomes sacred. 5. Meditation. Meeting the mind. Without fear, meditation is not about emptying the mind. It's about becoming intimate with it, sitting quietly, breathing deeply, and observing what arises without getting lost in it. You might sit in silence and feel heavy. That's okay, just stay. Let the breath guide you back. You are learning to befriend your own mind, to sit with the storm until it softens, and the light begins to return. Even 5 minutes a day can change the landscape of your heart. The Buddha said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." That peace is already within you. You are simply learning how to remember it. A gentle daily practice. Recap. If you feel lost, try this each morning. 1. Sit quietly for 2 minutes. 2. Breathe slowly and say, "This moment is enough." 3. Place your hand on your chest and whisper, "I'm here. I am alive. I am loved." Repeat daily, not for perfection, but for presence. And if you miss a day, begin again, no guilt, no shame, only the next breath. These are not magic cures. They are seeds. And like all seeds, they need time, patience, and care. But if you water them, even gently, even slowly, they will grow. And one day, you'll look back and realize you're no longer standing in the same darkness. The fog has lifted, the sky has cleared, and your heart has found its way home. Sometimes, we don't need more advice. We don't need more theories. We just need to hear, someone else has been where I am and found their way through. So let me share with you a few quiet stories, real stories, of transformation and hope, not of perfect people, but of ordinary hearts who met deep sorrow and slowly discovered the light again. Story 1. The man who sat with his pain. David was 68, a retired teacher. His wife had passed away. His children lived far, and each morning he woke with a heavy chest and a silent, aching loneliness. He tried everything, medications, TV, long walks, but nothing seemed to touch the emptiness inside. One day, at the library, he found a small book on Buddhist meditation. He almost didn't borrow it, but something whispered, "Try." He began sitting for 5 minutes each day. No incense, no mantras, just sitting. At first, all he felt was pain, grief, memories, tears, but he didn't run. He stayed. Day by day, he noticed something. The sadness didn't go away, but it stopped scaring him. He said, "I learned that I didn't need to be okay to be at peace. I just needed to be honest with what I was feeling." Now, every morning, David lights a small candle, sits with his breath, and whispers, "This, too, is life." Story 2. The woman who found self-love through the Buddha Margaret, age 72. A woman who spent most of her life caring for others, her parents, her children, her husband. But when they no longer needed her, she felt invisible, unseen, like she had disappeared into the walls of her own home. She once said, "I gave everything away and forgot to leave some love for myself." Her depression grew quietly, like ivy over the windows of her soul. One evening, while listening to a talk on YouTube, she heard a Buddhist teacher say, "You are worthy of the same love you so freely give to others." It shook her. She began practicing metta-meditation, loving kindness. At first it felt foreign, even silly, but she kept going. Each night before bed, she placed her hand over her heart and said, "May I be happy. May I be well. May I be free from inner harm." It felt fake, until one day, it didn't. She began to smile again, not for others, but from within. Margaret now teaches simple breathing and self-compassion to other seniors at her community center. And she ends each session with the words, "Be kind to yourself. You are not behind. You are already enough." Story 3. The Monk Who Once Felt Hopeless. You might think monks never feel lost, that they float above suffering. But that's not true. Ajahn Kema, now a gentle, smiling Buddhist monk, once spent years battling depression in silence. Before ordaining, he was a young man overwhelmed by life's pressure, never good enough, always falling short of some invisible standard. He tried everything to escape the pain: success, distractions, even running away from home. But one rainy night, alone and exhausted, he stepped into a small temple. The monk there said nothing, just handed him a cup of tea and sat beside him in silence. That night changed his life, not because something dramatic happened, but because, finally, someone didn't try to fix him. They simply sat with him. Years later, Ajahn Kema said, "The silence of that moment was louder than any advice I'd ever heard. It said, 'You are already whole. Let's begin here.'" He now teaches across the world, reminding people the mind can heal if we stop fighting it and start listening to it. These stories are not legends. They are not miracles. They are reminders that healing is not about being strong. It's about being honest, about being still long enough to hear the soft voice beneath the pain, the one that says, "You are not broken. You are becoming." So if today you feel like giving up, if it's hard to even get out of bed, remember, there are others who have felt this too, and they made it through, not by running faster, but by slowing down and turning inward. Let their stories be a candle in your night, a whisper in your darkness. You are not alone. You never were. If you've made it this far, take a moment and gently thank yourself. You didn't turn away. You didn't rush past the pain. You stayed. And that alone is an act of deep courage. Depression can feel like a wall, cold, endless, silent. But sometimes walls don't need to be broken. They just need someone to sit beside them until they slowly fall. Buddhism does not offer quick fixes. It offers something deeper: presence, understanding, compassion. It reminds us that suffering is not a failure, but a doorway to awareness, to softness, to waking up to the truth that you are not your thoughts. You are not your sadness. You are not the labels the world gave you, or the ones you gave yourself. You are awareness itself, vast, still, unbroken. Yes, depression may visit, but it is not your identity. It is not your forever. You are still here, still breathing, still becoming. And in the quiet moments, beneath all the noise, your true self is still whispering, "I am worthy. I am loved. I am not alone." The Buddha once said, "If your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete." So begin there, with your breath, with your truth, with your tender, tired heart, ready to heal. Slowly, honestly, on its own time. If this video touched something in you, please, don't let the moment pass. Leave a comment. Let others know. You are not alone either. Like this video if you found comfort here. And subscribe so that we can keep walking this gentle path together. We'll be here every step, every breath. Until next time, may you be safe, may you be well, and may you remember, healing is not a destination. It is a sacred return to the part of you that never left.